A quick note before we get into the episode. Oversharing is a podcast for entertainment purposes only. It is not a medical podcast and does not constitute medical or psychological advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or mental health professional. All right, let's do some intentions. This one is a voicemail. Let's roll the tape.
Hello, Jordana and Dr. Naomi. I want to start by saying I love oversharing. I love all things betches. I've been a listener from the start, and just thank you for all your wisdom. And of course, congratulations to Jordana on, your new journey as a parent after everything. I've been listening closely, so happy for you. I'm calling for some advice, support, maybe an intention, not really sure, around my sister and her family moving across the country. I have 3 siblings, and my older sister, the one right above me, her and I have always been very close since children. She has 2 kids now, ages 13 and 11, who I'm also extremely close with, godmother to one. I go to various soccer games and concerts and recitals. I take the day off work to pick them up from school when they're sick if their parents are out of sick days. My boyfriend has become very close with them in the last 7 years of our dating as well. And back earlier this spring, they decided to move across the country. It felt very sudden to us, and there was no reason for it just besides like they wanted to. There was no job incentive or anything. They just wanted to move to an area that's very different. We're from the Midwest, and they moved to the mountains, which of course they're entitled to do. However, I am really struggling still with the resentment, feeling a sense of resentment toward my sister and her husband for doing that, essentially I feel very abandoned, as I was a very large part of the kids' lives for their entire lives, like a third parent for them. And not having them around is just extremely different, just not quite the same. And I'm really missing them every day. I text the kids a lot to keep up with them, but having a hard time being able to be open, vulnerable, and even want to talk to my sister and brother-in-law. It's been about 5 months. They're actually coming in for Thanksgiving and staying with me. So Jordan, I feel you when you have Dr. Naomi come and stay with you with all the kids, because my house quantity of people is about to go times 3. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't want to answer the phone calls. I don't want to talk to them. I'm angry that they've also left me with aging and ailing parents that are also immigrants. So translating doctor's appointments, all those things, everything is very much on me. My other 2 siblings don't really participate in that. So help me. Is there something I could do, a mantra I can have for myself? Maybe I should try and structure a conversation, but I'd like to find a way to get through this. So thank you for anything you can offer, and you guys are the best. 3 minutes. Bye.
3 minutes.
There you go. She followed the rules. She got in there. This is a good question. I mean, this could have been written about you, right?
Totally.
To an extent.
I can really relate. I feel like there's 2 things going on here for her. One is just she's grieving the loss of this family and her nieces and her niece and nephew, and that's really big and heavy and hard. And then on top of it, I think she feels left with the responsibility for her parents, which we've been hearing more emails about that type of thing too, of just now she has to take them to the doctor and help care for them. And feels
especially if they don't speak English and she has to translate. That's
right.
That's a lot. Yeah.
She has to go to every appointment, it sounds like, so that they can actually communicate.
Right.
So it does sound like she has other siblings in the area that are just not doing that. So that might be something that she has to address with them. I can't be the default person here. That's not really fair. I'd like you guys to kind of help out with that. But I feel like the bigger issue, I'm getting the hunch that the bigger issue is just almost maybe when you needed me and I was there and I was in it and I took these kids on as my own in some regard, not my own, but I really leaned in heavy and hard with my heart and my time. And was totally there for you. But then when you're making this decision, it's like, I'm not even a thought in your mind about how to move forward when I was, gave a lot of myself to being with you and your family.
Right. Yeah. And I think the idea of like, they moved, they didn't need to move necessarily because there's no like job offer. There's no like, it seems like they like want it. I could see how that would feel a little insulting of like, I wasn't enough to like, if not keep you here, at least like be a big part of it. Like you kind of like left voluntarily, like you didn't really value our relationship enough to want to stay close to living with me, or that wasn't a big enough factor for you when you were considering where to live, the fact that I wouldn't be there. I could see how that, like, it's kind of like, I think that goes unsaid in a lot of these moving situations, but I'm sure that's something people think. Although, of course, every adult and every family has their own right to like live wherever they want and, create the life that they want.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's what you just said, which is like, they have the right to live and do whatever they want. And that's like a given, and everyone kind of accepts that. So then on top of all the rest of it, it feels like maybe there's like a little shame there of like, why do I feel like I'm part of like I should be considered part of your family when I'm not? Like I shouldn't really be consulted, but I feel like maybe she would have preferred to be more a part of the lead up conversations versus just like, okay, here's the announcement, we're leaving.
Right. Or maybe like, no discussion with her about like how hard it would be to be away from her, or feeling like, I think that could be hurtful if that's a big part of your life and you spend, you're taking off work to pick up someone's kids from school. And like, I could see how it would be hurtful to be like just told and not considered, or told without a sense of, this is really hard for us because we love you so much, and we're going to miss you so much. And I know you're, and like a validation of all those things. Maybe she didn't get that. I don't know what the conversations were like.
Yeah. It sounds like she probably didn't. And I think the other factor in here that makes it hard is like, I mean, she has her boyfriend, which sounds like she has a partner, which is great because she's not like totally alone. But I think if this happens and you don't have your own family unit, it could feel like I kind of attached to your family unit a little bit, and that was welcomed, and that's kind of the dynamic that we had. And then all of a sudden, when you're making this big life decision, it's like, I'm very aware that I'm plucked out of this family unit. So there's a lot of grief here and loss, and like, I know it's hard, and I've experienced this, like moving your kids away from their family. They change so much. And with kids, you really do need that physical presence to stay connected. It's much harder. Two adults can stay connected by texting and, phone calls and sending each other memes and whatever adults do to stay connected. But
hosting a podcast together.
Right. But with kids, I do notice that like my kids feel the closest. And I think this is for most kids, with the people that they have like in-person time with. It's
in their everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I mean, in their everyday life, or at least having like these in-person touch points, like as often as possible, it really does help. Like they don't connect as well virtually. They're bored. Like conversation. The thing with kids is like conversation can only take you so far. That's why kids do like play therapy.
Right.
Because
they need to be doing things. Yeah.
They need to like be playing together, interacting about something other than like, how was your day at school? And like, what are you doing? And do you like your teacher? It's like, that's not how kids connect. They connect by like, we're painting a picture together, or we're like playing with something together. We're cooking something together. We're doing something together. So I could see why she might be fearful.
I feel like men also connect that way. Like men are usually like, if they're like having a friendship, they're like, they need to be like watching a game, or like
yes,
going to bar, even maybe
Right.
that, or like there needs to be like, it's not, the activity isn't just like the conversation. It has to be like, we're playing golf or whatever.
Yeah, playing sports together or cards, or so I could see why she's afraid, like she's built this deep connection with these kids, that it might be, kind of waning due to the distance. And her sister, and probably her, her brother-in-law. Like, I think there's just a lot of loss here, and it's going in the direction of resentment because I think she's not sharing it. And maybe there was a part that was hard for them too, so they didn't really want to go there. Like, they didn't want to confront the reality of what this would mean for their relationship with you, or what this would mean for their kids' relationship with you. So they just kind of like put their heads down and like made the move, like the path of what felt like least resistance. But I do think you guys should talk about this. And I think it really is important to tell her. And I think the fear in having the conversation is like, you don't want to try to guilt them. You don't want to try to make her feel bad, because they've moved. There's nothing,
Right.
They're not going to move back.
And she wouldn't want them to not move because she was too upset. Like, it's like you want someone to, if they were going to not move, it would be because they wanted to move, not because she was like, stay here for me. Like,
Right.
She wouldn't want that anyway.
And if she does have those feelings, I think the other part, like I kind of mentioned, is like there's a lot of shame around that. Like, why am I so connected to someone else's family? Like, there's something wrong with me, or like I don't
Right.
have my own life, or maybe I need to get my own, like almost it feels a little shameful to feel like I'm asking you not to leave. Or even if she decided, hey, I want to come with you guys, right? Like, if you really miss them and you really want to be near them, and they living in a beautiful mountain town, there might be some shame around like, now I'm following you. Like, that feels like
Also
not great.
weird. Yeah.
Also weird.
Right.
But look, I think just addressing it and honoring your own feelings on it. And I don't think there's any shame in kind of saying like, hey, I have these like beautiful human connections. If I have an urge or a thought even of like following you, it doesn't make you a loser. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's normal. Like, all of these feelings are very normal. And I think you should, first of all, allow yourself to have your own grief around it. And then secondly, I think it is important that you find a way to communicate what you're feeling.
Right. In a non-aggressive way.
Yeah. Just so, what I think is really there is just like, I miss you so much. I miss like being involved with your family. I miss the kids, and I miss just being able to be part of your daily life. And I'm afraid perhaps that our relationships are not going to be the same, and they're very important to me. So like, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Like, you made your decision. I respect it. But it's been really hard for me, and it's because I love you all so much and I feel so connected to you, and I'm not really asking you to do anything differently. But I think if I don't share this with you, it feels like I'm starting to get like resentful when I know that you haven't really done anything wrong. I think what's making her resentful is the lack of like addressing the issue.
Right. Yeah. And I think that could make you closer.
I'm almost positive it will, especially if your sister comes back with like,
I feel the same way to an extent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Which she probably does. I mean, I wish there was more context in terms of how she interacts now, like when they come back and how she feels. But look, I think you can, like you said, I'm in the same exact position, and it's really important for myself and my kids to stay close to all their aunts and uncles. And like, you can do it. But you just have to, I think you need that in-person time. So I'm glad they're coming in for Thanksgiving. I hope you guys spend lots of quality time together. And maybe this is a perfect time to have an in-person conversation.
Yeah. And maybe you plan a trip, or you have these like, the nice part about, the distance, I think, is that when you do see each other, it feels really meaningful. You have like, it's usually for a few days. So you have a lot of time together, and usually like someone's off So you have like even more than in a day-to-day life. I feel like you have a little bit more of like a special like bonding where you're spending daily time together, not distracted by other things going on in your life.
Totally. And it's a great time to have this type of conversation. And yeah, it sounds like your niece and nephew they're getting older. So this might be a time when they're a little more open to just like conversations about your relationship. Like I think 13, 11, like it'll be nice to have an in-person conversation, tell them like, reminisce about the things you used to do together and, think about what you guys can continue to do together to stay close.
I also do think, and I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but having these sometimes if you're in a little bit of a rut in your own life, it can be easier to focus on someone else's family structure. I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but I do think that like that can happen sometimes. And in some ways, I think it could be good for you to, once that distraction is gone, obviously not gone, you're still like, you have your sister, they still exist, but to either like focus on the thing that maybe you were using that a little bit as a crutch for against other things. Not that like, again, being close with someone is a crutch, but I think sometimes it can feel like I'm pouring my energy into this family or this thing so as not to, deal with the thing that I don't want to deal with.
Right. Yeah. That could be there. I do think anything where you're like giving that much of yourself, but I do think it's very hard, these like aunt, uncle relationships where it's hard you love these kids so much, but they're not yours.
Right.
And, the relationship has to be a little bit different. But if you have a big, open heart full of love, and you have an adorable kid that you really get along with, it can be really hard to pull back from that. So I get what you're saying, but yeah, it might be good to reflect on like where you're going to put the rest of that energy. Like kind of what I was writing for her intention wise is like, there's all this like big love, all this big open heart energy that you were giving to this family, especially to the kids, it sounds like when you were there, and now it has no place kind of to go. So that maybe that's leading into what you're talking about, which is like, what are you going to do with all this love energy that you had? And maybe you do want to like get a dog or, I don't know that she didn't mention anything about wanting kids, but like maybe you do want to like get a dog or volunteer or like you're an amazing person. You have all this big love to give. And I think what's causing so much pain is that it had its pathway before.
Right.
And now it's kind of like, it feels like just a little stuck.
Stifled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. The intention that I wrote is this sadness and loss belongs. And that's the first part, which is just like allowing yourself to have it without shame. Sharing my pain will give my love some place to go. So I think you could take the pain, you could take the loss, you could take all the things that are brewing into resentment and share them with your sister. I don't know that I would share them with the kids, but share them with your sister. And that will open this kind of pathway for this love to be expressed back where it really belongs.
Agreed. All right. Good luck.
Good luck.
Let's do some triggers. I will read our first one. Hi, Dr. Naomi and Jordana, new listener here. I made my way over from you up, and I'm so happy I did. Jordana, congratulations on your 2 baby girls. I really thank you for sharing about your fertility journey with your listeners. It's real and inspiring. I'm so excited for you and Mike. Thank you. I have a triggered situation for you, not being called by your professional title while in a professional setting. For a lot of context here, I'm a 34-year-old female orthopedic surgeon in my first year and a half of practicing on my own after 5 years of residency and 1 year of fellowship. God, okay.
Wow.
That's a lot. I am one of 2 females in my 20-ish person private practice group. I live and practice in a relatively large East Coast city where realistically there's probably only 5 to 10 other female orthopedic surgeons in the area out of about 150 plus ortho surgeons. Being a female in a male-dominated field has always been difficult to navigate, but even more so as I've transitioned out of the trainee role. I'm always conscious of my interactions with nurses and staff because I fear that when I firmly ask for what I want or demand to have things a certain way, I may be perceived as bitchy or overbearing. Sometimes I find myself being too nice or accommodating so as not to be perceived as bitchy. This feeling is often compounded by working with staff who are older than me. I also have struggled tremendously this year with feelings of imposter syndrome. I feel a huge amount of pressure as one of the only females in the area to perform perfectly for my patients, obviously, but also so that the hospital staff and other surgeons don't create negative perceptions related to women in orthopedics. I constantly feel like I'm not good enough to be here, and my work as a surgeon and clinician is never enough. One thing I have noticed being out in practice is how patients and staff treat me as a young female. I often get asked if I'm old enough to do this, which I always make a joke about good Botox. Or my patients often refer to me by first name only or doctor first name. And while I'm fairly casual and personal in clinical settings, I have never seen patients refer to my male counterparts as anything other than doctor last name. If anything, they call the male PAs, physician's associate in my practice, doctor last name too. I never say anything to correct people when they call me doctor first name, and that's on me. I feel like within the medical profession, there's a bias to accepting females as doctors, as I am often assumed to be a nurse or a PA. Heck, one time I rounded on a patient for a week in the hospital, and he asked if he was ever going to see a doctor.
Oh my gosh.
So now that I'm out of training and I'm the treating physician, when I'm called doctor first name, it makes me feel like inadequate and undermines my training. And yes, I recognize the irony of writing this email addressed to Dr. Naomi and not Dr. Bernstein. So here is the triggered situation. I recently started operating at a new hospital. I am the only female orthopedic surgeon who operates at this hospital, but there are plenty of ortho female surgeons who work there. The orthopedic coordinator is an older female, and after meeting her several times, I saw her in the hallway before an OR case. And in front of other staff, she said, "I just can't call you doctor last name. You aren't a doctor last name to me. I'm going to call you doctor first name or first name." I laughed it off and went about my cases, but it really stuck with me. I think primarily because I doubt she would ever do that to one of the male surgeons. Is her calling me by my first name showing a lack of respect? Should I have corrected her? If so, how do I correct her now without coming off rude? How do I find the balance of commanding an at times stressful workplace with respect, not only from me to the staff, but also garnering respect from the staff? Should I just get over myself and accept that being called Dr. First Name is not based on my gender, training, or abilities? Help, a first name betch.
Wow, great question. First of all, you're a rock star. This is awesome. Love that you're, kind of leading the way for females, for women in this field. I think it's really great, but it's a burden to carry. Even as she says in the beginning, like that she needs to represent women orthopedic surgeons. Like she feels like she's carrying that entire burden of like how she handles herself is like how people are going to perceive this minority group in this place.
Totally. I also wonder what her last name is. And, one might say that's irrelevant, but just from the comment that she doesn't speak about the last name or how easy it is to pronounce or how long it is, I think that might have something to do with it.
Right.
It could sometimes if she's like, "I just can't call you doctor last name. You aren't a doctor last name to me." I guess that maybe that's how but she's taking that as how she's perceived. But if it was like a very long, complicated name, I could see why maybe more people than usual would call her by her first name.
Right. Yeah. Or something about it that's like, "Oh, you just don't look like a Rachel. You look like a, Jennifer," or whatever it is. Like, I think people, but yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, that it might be something about the name, but I think she is holding this last name versus first name because I think overall she's not feeling
Respected.
the same respect. I think if she was able, she has the option here of saying, "Actually, I prefer to be called Dr. Last Name." She can do that. Totally fine. I think that would be great. But if it's not really about the doctor last name, doctor first name, I think she probably does need to start asserting herself. a little bit more in general and see if maybe the last name, first name thing doesn't matter as much. Like and she said in the beginning, she's afraid to ask for what she wants. Like, I need the chart to be on the desk I need the chart to be in the computer by 9:00 a.m. If I'm starting at 9:15, please make sure tomorrow that it's in there at 9. Whatever the thing is that she has to do, that she's afraid of being bitchy. I think if she started doing those things, and also if somebody made a comment like the patient that's like, when am I ever going to see a doctor, is if she was a little bit more firm about like, I'm a doctor, I've been seeing you all week, like just kind of standing up for herself. And in general, the last name, first name thing wouldn't matter as much. Cause I know like there are some doctors, even male, that will be like, hey, I'm Dr. Dan or whatever. And it doesn't matter because they generally feel respected.
I agree. I think it's if she felt like she had the authority or respect, and maybe she looks young. So I think that might be another reason she's not getting it. I think here's the thing. It is an art to be able to ask for what you want, be pretty firm, be like good at your job, be confident in yourself without sounding like overly confident or rude or any of those things. I think it's like, it is a difficult thing. Like it's about like the tone that you ask. I mean, like she could, you know what I mean? There's like a friendliness with what she could say, like, thanks so much for this chart. I'm really going to need, like, I really appreciate it. Would really need it next time to be like here at this time or in that way. Or like, right. I really need you to get me to have all the materials laid out for the surgery in this way next time. And like, again, as long as you're not screaming at people, I don't think anyone's going to think you're like a bitch. One thing I think would be helpful, and I think a lot of people find this in a field, especially with like fewer women or fewer people that are like them in any capacity, is to find someone in this hospital who's working, find another female doctor who's like a little older, maybe a little more experienced, and kind of ask if they could be like a little bit of a mentor to you, to like teach you like how to tell you how they've like established credibility and respect in this kind of male dominated field and getting any like tips for that. So you feel like there's someone who's been through it who can help you navigate that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great idea. Because I'm sure if there are a few, they probably have been through what you're going through. I think a lot of times just being young in the field is hard also. And maybe that's where the whole, like, you just don't look like a doctor so-and-so is more like you're young and you're cool and like,
right.
You're more relatable perhaps. And that might be something that could serve you, this idea of feeling like you're someone who's relatable, but it is going to be hard to find that sweet spot.
Yes.
Between like, I'm relatable and I'm cool and like, but I'm also want to be respected.
All of my experience in this is from watching The Pitt and Grey's Anatomy. So I have no real say or like sense of what's normal and what's not normal, but it does seem like from watching The Pitt, again, I know I sound ridiculous, that there is in like a medical field, a little bit of a hierarchy situation where those who are younger or newer to the profession are not necessarily like respected or seen the same way of both genders in that way. So it could be the gender thing. It could be because she's like just out of training. I mean, a year and a half is not just, but like right. she's not a seasoned doctor yet. And maybe that's a little bit of the culture of the medical community, is like the doctors who have been at it longer kind of like haze a little bit the doctors who are a little newer, or the coordinators are kind of like looking at them a certain way. Again, not being in the field, I don't fully know, but I think that might be also contributing to it.
Right. Yeah. And I agree, but I'm pretty sure she's probably picking up on some type of a gender stereotype situation. From what I understand, and this is, and maybe mom has even said this about like orthopedists tend to be, I think it's a really hard field to get into. Like, you have to do really well. You have to be like top of the class. A lot of people want these positions, and it's a very male dominated field. And there's like a little bit of a cocky air to this. I think if you were to create a personality stereotype for different types of doctors orthopedists tend to be like a little bit more kind of like a cocky, confident type of personality. And I think there is confident women are perceived a little bit different than confident men. You know, confident women can be perceived as like bitchy and more negative than a confident man. But I would really try to lean in. And if you do get a mentor, like what you're saying, to being able to find that confidence and stand tall in it. And I think if you can feel that confidence, it will exude from you. And you can probably like bump up against some of this more male dominated confidence that just probably feels comfortable from living in a society where that is just the more of the expectation for a successful male versus a successful female.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, I agree. It's triggering to have someone say that I'm going to call you this. Like, I think that for anything, like it's more, can I call you? If she said, can I call you this? I kind of just feel like you're a doctor first name. Can I? I think to ask would be still kind of annoying, but less triggering than I'm just going to, and it's have anyone call you. Like, if you had a patient who was like, I'm just going to call you Naomi.
Right.
As opposed to like, would you mind if I called you Naomi? You might say, yeah. I don't know if you would.
Right.
But you might say yes.
Yeah. No, I think it's, again, I really wouldn't personally care, but I think and I get why she does, because it's bigger than just the name. And that comment came from a woman.
Right.
So I think that's why she also might feel like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to find, like, maybe it feels like I am alone in this, or like this woman is part of the problem. But I don't think it's about the name. I think it's about the generally feeling respected, the imposter syndrome that she mentioned. She is pretty, young into doing this independently. I think this will get way better with time.
Yeah. I think it's the kind of thing you can't expect to just walk in your first day on the job after leaving your training and be like, I'm commanding the room. Like, I think those people are annoying. I do think there's a little bit of a sense of like, all right, I'm figuring out the ropes. Now I feel like I've been here. And I think maybe she's at a pivotal time because she's like, all right, I've been here a year and a half. I've been doing this a year and a half. I'm starting to feel like she actually has that inner confidence, which I think now she can work on ways that she's going to exude that, or ways that she's going to command it. Yes. And if people think you're bitchy, like, whatever.
Yes.
Who cares?
Totally.
A lot of people think I'm bitchy, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes.
And Naomi's like, yes, matches. I know many of them.
It's true. I mean, I was becoming a psychologist and I was very young at the time. They spent a lot of time talking about like what to do when people are like, are you even old enough to do this? Like, how long have you been doing, like, people that were questioning us about how capable we were at a young age. So I think this happens in lots of fields, but I can see how in orthopedic surgery, you're kind of alone in this experience. So, wow, super impressive. It's a role model for all the little girls out there that can, break into these male dominated fields. So you should feel awesome about that. And
I give it a 4.5.
Yeah. Yeah. The name thing, I think,
feels symbolic. I get it.
I'll give it a 4.
Yeah. If she had asked again, I think I would rank it lower.
The name thing, I'll give the name thing a 5. I think the overall experience, like, she gives all this context, like the patient that she was rounding on for a week that was like, when am I going to see a doctor? Like, that's combined with just like a general feeling of, because this happened after all this buildup.
Right. Especially after all that training. Like
all that. That's college. That's medical school. Then
residency.
There's like, so
fellowship, all this stuff. Yeah.
After everything that you've been through and all of that, and feeling like you carry the load for female orthopedic surgeons everywhere. And you're kind of like, do I just accept this like doctor, first name thing? And what does that mean for all the female orthopedic surgeons? Are we all going to turn into doctor first names when all the men are going to be doctor last names? So for that reason, I'm going to bump it up to a 6 just because of all that she's been through.
Fine. For carrying the weight of all the female orthopedic surgeons in the state that she's in, I'll come meet you at the 6.
Okay.
All right. Let's do one more.
All right. Jordana and Dr. Naomi, huge fan of oversharing. Thank you so much for creating a space for overthinkers like myself to overanalyze not only our interactions, but those of others. That's what we're here for. Would love your thoughts on my social media work-related trigger. I work at a very small company. I've been here for almost 3 years. After starting as an assistant, I was promoted a year ago to what is essentially a junior executive role. I'm not quite an executive, but I now have a lot more involvement in our projects. An article was recently published about one of our projects. My boss, who's a VP, our EVP, and our president were named in the article. People at my level usually don't get recognition in these articles, so I wasn't surprised or upset not to be mentioned. But here's where my trigger comes in. My boss asked if we could follow each other on Instagram so he could tag me in his post about the article. We followed each other, and I saw that he'd already posted a screenshot of the article on his main Instagram grid. In his caption, he'd given an individual shout out to and tagged our EVP, our president, and our partners at another company we worked with on the project. Once we followed each other, he tagged me in the post. So I was tagged in the photo, which was a screenshot of the article, but he didn't edit his caption to give me a shout out. I was offended that he considered me enough to follow me on Instagram and tag me in the post, but didn't give me a shout out in his caption. I'm the only person who was tagged in the post, but not mentioned in his caption. My boyfriend thinks it's not a big deal because he posted it before we followed each other. But if he edited his post to tag me, I feel like he could have edited his caption to mention me. For more context, my boss is generally good about showing appreciation, and he championed my promotion last year. But he can also be hot and cold. Sometimes he'll exclude me from meetings, and he once very aggressively shut me down when I asked for a long overdue raise. Would love to hear if you think my boss tagging me in his post but not giving me a shout out in his caption when he gave one to everyone else is triggering. Thanks for all the amazing content you put out.
Listen, I mean, I think she kind of lays it out in the email about like why it's triggering. It's not because of the post. It's because she's like unsure if he likes her or not, or appreciates her, or like thinks she's good at her job. She's kind of getting these mixed messages. So she's gotten another mixed message with the tag, but no caption. I think this on itself is not that triggering because, again, the post was up before they followed each other. It seems like if he really wanted to exclude her, he wouldn't even, he initiated the let's follow each other on social media. So I think if he was like really trying to kind of like cut her out of the whole thing, he wouldn't have even requested that.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I think he initiated the whole thing. So if and he's editing he didn't even have to do that really because you didn't even follow each other. I mean, you tell me if this feels off, but like he did go back and edit the post to tag you in it. And so he didn't think maybe to like edit the caption to add you in there. I don't think it's about caption.
He wanted you to know you were included enough to ask you to follow.
Right. And he would have to be like a real sociopath to be like, I'm just going to keep her guessing by not putting her in the caption, but tag. He was probably just being lazy. He figured like I included her, I tagged her.
Right. And he went out of his way to like ask you about the following, which I do think is kind of the biggest sign. Because it's not like I could see him being like, I'm just going to tag the people whose accounts I know and I already follow.
Right. That's it. You're not here. You won't
know either way. It's also like, I assume a private account.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter if you're added. Like who's it? It's for like the people in his life that he's trying to impress. Like you're not even, no one you know follows him.
Yes. And it also does sound like the rest of the people that are being included in this are like the VP and the EVP and you and the president.
Right.
So like, I don't know. And let me just go back. She's been with the company for 3 years, which is like long, but it's not like 10 years. and you're already being included with like, I don't know how many people are there, but like you're already being included with the VP and the president. And like, I think you're working your way up. Like you're in there, you're getting there. So yeah, I wouldn't read too much into this. I think there is an insecurity that being shut down when you ask for a promotion, that's hard.
Yeah.
Right. That feels really icky. So that probably left it like aggressively shut down.
Right. I can see how that would color all the other interactions of like, does this person hate me or whatever? And you know what? I think like maybe this anxiety about whether or not he likes you might actually be hindering the relationship that you have with him to an extent.
Yeah. It's very, I mean, it's interesting because you can look at this in so many ways. Like you could just look at this as like, oh my gosh, he asked to follow me on Instagram. I'm following like his personal account. He included me in this, like win.
Right.
Great. I'm working my way in.
Yeah. I think if my boss asked to follow me, I would be like, all right, they're planning on me being here for a while. Wouldn't ask to follow someone where I was like, they're not going to be here that long.
Like, right. Yeah. So maybe focus on like the positive aspects of this interaction versus you might be having, because you're having this sensitivity, like a negative bias to like seeking out the part about this that didn't, the one little tiny part about this that didn't go well, when it seems like overall this was a win for your career. This was like a positive step in the right direction.
Yes. And you're being included in the like celebration of whatever the achievement was here.
Yeah. Yep.
So
try to stay positive.
Give this like a 2.
Yeah.
I think, just the lack of writing the actual handle out. I don't know how long and complicated your handle is.
Right.
I could see myself doing that, just being like, all right, I wanted her to be following me, or I followed her to see that I recognized her, but I don't need to like fully get it again, because he's also like, who's seeing this besides his own friends and family?
Right. Like really, how much does it mean for your career? The symbolism is there that he asked you. Like you said, he could love you and love everything about you, but kind of be like, all right, like I don't see her popping up here. I can't really find her. I don't,
care
need to
enough.
specifically go out of my way to ask her. He cares. He likes you. He likes you. I think he likes you.
Now go comment something great about Go Team on the post.
Yes,
and that'll
totally
do more for you than like this like sort of inhibited anxiety feeling of, is he like me? Does he not like me? Just assume you're liked until proven otherwise.
Yes. Confidence is really, again, with that last post too, I think just like really being able to sink into your own confidence, to know that you're good, that you were a part of this. Keep thinking about the things that you did and how you contributed to this that make you a really good part of this like top level team. And next time you'll probably be in the caption as well.
Yes. Now that you're there from the beginning. All right.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for listening. Fun episode. We covered a lot.
Yeah, we really did cover a lot. All right. Until next time, that's our time.
Great work today.